Good morning, everybody.
Hi, Will.
Good morning. Did you want to make me a co-host so I can enter people?
I just did.
Oh, you did? Okay, good. Thank you.
Good morning, all.
Morning to you. So, Hank, where do I find the people that are waiting in the waiting room? You're muted, Hank. You're still muted, Hank. Hank.
Yes, please admit those in the waiting room. I just got bumped off of here again. I don't know what's causing this.
How do I find what people are in the waiting room?
You're the co-host. I think you're still the co-host. So just a minute. Let me change my name first before I.
Yeah, I'm co-host.
You should see a box pop up at the top of your window that shows who's
Who's waiting?
I wish I knew what was causing this.
You get bumped?
Yeah,
You get bumped?
I got bumped off twice.
Huh. Wow.
And that changes the recording. Will, see if you can record this.
Okay. It says recording is working.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is, but that's because, but each time it bumps me off and it restarts the recording.
Oh, okay.
So see if you can record it yourself on your computer or in the cloud, whichever you prefer. And then you can send it to me later.
Okay, well, right now it says it is recording, and I assume that's you. Oh,
Yeah, that's
okay.
me.
No, okay.
But I think you can also record it.
Well, I'll click on it and see what happens.
I don't know, but try.
Well, I'm clicking on it, but it isn't recording. I would think that more than one person can record. But I don't know where I go to see what people are in the waiting room. Here.
You should, well, there are a couple of places you can do it. Click participants and you'll get a separate window over on the right, and those people in the waiting room should be in a different section of that list of participants.
Yeah, okay.
There's nobody in the waiting room right now.
I'm surprised. I would have thought there would be, considering that we only got 5 minutes to go. Very peculiar. There's a red activities. Do you know what that means? Under participants? Under security, I mean?
Hold on.
down at the bottom of the participants of security is a red thing that says suspend participant activities.
Now, Miriam is in the waiting room. Do you see that at the top of the participants window?
Yeah, I do. Okay, I'm gonna admit it. Yeah, I do see it. Okay, I can keep that open and let people in. Hi, Miriam.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Saul.
Hi, Miriam.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Saul, you weren't to be here.
I said I might not be. I got done what I had to do this morning, so I just got back.
That was fast.
So if you want me to be a co-host and help, I can do that.
Well, I've already got Will on there.
Okay.
Although I guess I can have two co-hosts.
You can have as many as you want. Zoom
Okay,
does
I'm
not
letting
limit
people-
you.
I'm letting people in, so
That's
I'll
fine.
watch.
There you go. You're in.
Good. Thank you.
I got bumped off twice this
Morning.
morning, and I have no idea why.
Technology is curious.
Now, Saul, do you know whether more than one person can record this meeting?
As
On their
many
own?
as many people as they want. Anybody can record the meeting.
Okay, I would suggest that I already suggested that Will record it, but he hasn't been successful in starting his recording. Why don't you start one? In case I get bumped again, I don't want my recording to start and stop.
Okay, I'm recording.
All right, good.
How do
should-
guests start recording? I don't see that. Oh,
I-
record button.
I should qualify, excuse me, Stan, maybe to answer your question. I don't know how the APCUG settings, Zoom host settings are set up. They may not permit participants to do recordings. Maybe only hosts and co-hosts can do it. So if you don't see it, Stan, that would be the reason.
Well, I see it and I clicked on it and it says, please ask the host to give you permission to record.
Which Hank can do if he wants to.
But I don't know how.
Usually if Stan clicks on what he got, then something should pop up on your end and
Yeah.
you should allow
But-
them.
But I don't think it has.
Dan has his hand up.
Hi, Dan. You're muted. Go ahead.
I'm looking at the participants list, and it indicates that Hank Drayton and Saul Schuma are both recording.
That's interesting.
It's a little circle with a red dot in the middle.
Yeah, that is correct, Dan.
Saul, to do that, did you just click on recording?
That's all I did.
I have a red recording button already showing. Do I click on that?
Not the little red dot that's flashing. It would be on the Zoom app control bar where it says record or something like that.
Oh, down at the bottom?
Yeah. And
Okay, probably under more. Okay, let's take a look at that.
Oh,
Yeah, okay, record on this computer. I see it now. Yeah, thanks. somebody may be in the waiting room, but I don't see a name.
No, nobody's in the waiting room right now.
All right.
Yeah, I think I've admitted whoever asked.
Oh, okay. We got 11 people now. Connie Vickers, welcome. Is this your first time on our Zoom session? You're muted.
No, it's not. It's been a while, and Saturdays are usually hard for me. I was intrigued by your topic today, so that's one thing, and I think I can learn something. So here I am.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's
I don't-
good news. The topic I picked dragged somebody in here.
Yeah, I think Stan is the one that introduced me to this group a while back. So here I am.
Good. Glad to have you with us.
Yeah, Connie is a guest from Walkabout.
Yeah.
And Stan, I think I've allowed you to record if you want to. You can try it.
And what are those
Okay.
sticks on your wall, Connie?
Oh my goodness. Well, behind me is just some sculpture. It's metal. This one is metal. And I believe I got that in either Santa Fe or Scottsdale, Arizona. Not exactly sure. This one just came from, I think, from Guatemala. And over here I love this one. This is a glass sculpture. It's called a kayak, and I got that in Alaska. And this other little thing is just an owl that I inherited from my grandmother. So just some things to make me happy.
You say it's glass?
It is glass. It's monochromatic glass or something. And what I like about it is, I don't know if it'll do it now, but it changes colors. I don't know if you can see it really, but it'll change colors. So sometimes it's yellow and sometimes it's greenish. And I really wish I had got more. This is just one I got. It's been maybe 10 years ago that I went, eight years ago when I went to Alaska.
But they're not love sticks.
I don't think so. No.
You know what a love stick is?
I don't know, but I don't think they are. Why don't you tell me?
They're little pieces of wood, maybe a foot long, carved in a very specific pattern. And the story is that the male goes over to the female's tent and pokes his love stick through the side of the grass shack, through the pieces of grass, and if the lady recognizes the pattern on his love stick, she lets him in.
Not too much
So what
different from
culture
real
is
life, from other lives.
I have some of those on my wall. I'll have to display those some meeting.
I'd like to see
Is
them.
that-
Send some
are they
to
from
all of
Hawaii?
us. Send some to all of us. We'd like love sticks.
Is that
Well,
equivalent?
just
to-
Google love sticks and you can probably buy them online.
No,
Oh,
I
that's an
want them
idea.
for you.
That's an idea. Oh,
No, you have
Hey,
your
are
own.
they from Hawaii? The love sticks, are they from Hawaii?
Yes,
okay.
they're here in Hawaii on my Hawaiian wall.
Is this
And
like?
I think I got them here.
carving.
I might have gotten them on Guam. I don't remember.
The
Is this
glass
like the camel's
sculpture,
nose
was that
under
a
the tent?
native, was that from an native Alaskan or?
I'm not sure now. I got it at a gallery. I believe it was in, the name, it was on a cruise. So it was one of the stops. It wasn't Juneau. It was, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of where I got it. I'll think about it. Let me think about it during the meeting. It might come to me. I don't think so. It was in a gallery and it was displayed with several different ones. I got this, and I think my sister got a metal sculpture for a wall. So I know that they called us the shopping sisters when we were there because we were always shopping. So anyway,
Maybe
Well,
it was Ketchikan.
catch a can. Yes, it was a K. Thank you. Catch a can. I just couldn't think of it. I can see the town. I can see the gallery. I can see everything. And I'm very tempted to go online and see if there's another one available. It wasn't inexpensive. So, but I love it. So anyway.
Well, we're up to 15 people,
Oh, good.
and it's 8:36. So let me ask, does anyone have any Zoom questions this morning? We usually cover Zoom questions before the presentation in case people are having troubles. No Zoom problems, huh? That's good.
Hank, I have one comment. You'll notice my name. I've indicated the type of computer and the operating system added to my name. And particularly for this group, I think it would be beneficial if the individuals would indicate what type system they have, so questions can be tailored to their system. I see Arlene has indicated it's an iPad, and that's helpful. So I'm just suggesting that you could rename yourself to include what operating system you're using.
That's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'll change mine. Okay, well, hearing no Zoom questions, I think I will start our presentation. But before I do that, I want to remind everyone that the closest thing we have now to the old Bits and Bytes newsletter is a tab on our website. Let me see if I can show that. Just a minute. We'll see. Here we are. Let's see if I can now share my screen and show you. Yeah, here we are. All right, I'm sharing on my screen, and you all should be seeing the home page of the Seniors Computer Group website, and it is scgsd.org. The first letters of the 5 words that make up Seniors Computer Group San Diego .organization, O-R-G. So if I now click on Bits and Bytes, I hope you will see that these are things that have been posted in the Bits and Bytes in the month that they were posted. Here's something that I found and added here today, and this one is something that I believe Saul suggested that I add.
Yeah, it was related to Sammy's question last week.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I wanted to say about that. So now I'm going to mute everyone. You can unmute yourself if you have something vital you need to say. And I will start today's presentation. Whoops, no, I won't. Not until I go back to there we are. Share website and
Well, it's a new year and there's new scams, so just like every year, I'm going to make this video going over a bunch of scams that are either brand new, or maybe they're not even new, but they're becoming more popular recently, or they're a new variation on an old scam that you should watch out for coming into 2022. But of course, that's what you defend against them.
Hank, we have a couple big black blocks across
by the end
his
of the video
face.
for these at least. So starting out with number one, we have the Google Voice verification scam, and this one's really tricky because you might not even realize that you were tricked by the end of it. This one usually targets people who are selling things online, such as on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, but really anywhere that people post their phone number to be contacted, and this even includes, sadly,
those black bars that are across when you wish.
How this scam works is they'll first contact you and say,
Hank, could you pause the video for a moment?
person, or verify that you're the real pet's owner, or verify anything really, and then they'll say that they're going to send a verification text, or it may also be a voice phone call, and it'll be from Google Voice. It'll say Google Voice verification text and then a code, and they'll ask you to give that code to them. And if you do, even if you don't have a Google Voice account, they've got you. So let me explain. Google Voice is basically a service where you get assigned a virtual phone number that ties to your main phone number, and then you can then receive calls on the virtual phone number that gets forwarded to your main number, or you can also make calls from the Google Voice number, the virtual number. And in this scam, what the scammer is trying to do is set up a new Google Voice account with the Google Voice number, except it'll be associated to you, the victim, not them. Because when they set it up, they enter in a phone number that it will be associated with, and then it sends that phone number, of course, a verification text. And if you give that, then they can basically sign up for an account under your number. And this is basically just a way for the scammers to get a nearly unlimited supply of new phone number, or you could also make calls.
Hold on, everyone. For some reason, my screen sharing stopped.
And when you go back into it, if you could go to the rightmost button on the screen sharing control bar, where I think it says more or something, and drop down there and see if you can hide that control bar because it's blocking the video.
Yeah, I know. I moved it up so it was not right in front of its face, but I haven't found the place to turn it off.
Yeah, if you could do it that way, go to the rightmost choice on that control bar. It'll give you a choice to hide it. There's a keyboard shortcut, but it's kind of lengthy, so I don't want to give it that. And if you want to get it back, you just have to hit the escape key.
All right, let's see where we are. Just a minute. I've backed ThioJoe up a little bit, so when we go back to him, maybe we'll be all right. Now, no, I don't see the thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, it should be at the far rightmost choice, a drop down like you're doing right now, and scroll down a ways, and it'll give you a way to hide that meeting control bar or shared control bar.
There we are. Hide floating meeting controls. There
That's
we
it.
go.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So there's still a few on there, but I don't know what to tell you about that.
The live's transcription. Well, I clicked
That one went away.
that one.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready to start ThioJoe again.
Yeah. So there's one left down toward the bottom. I don't know if you can see that on your end.
Dan, what do you have to say?
Can you slow him down a little bit?
Yeah, it's under the settings gear. You can do the playback speed down on the regular YouTube setting, right near there. Yeah.
There we go. Playback speed normal. 3/4. Let's try that.
From the Google Voice number, the virtual number. And in this scam, what the scammer is trying to do is set up a new Google Voice account with the Google Voice number, except it'll be associated to you, the victim, not them. Because when they set it up, they enter in a phone number that it will be associated with, and then it sends that phone number, of course, a verification text. And if you give that, then they can basically sign up for an account under your number. And this is basically just a way for the scammers to get a nearly unlimited supply of new phone numbers, because normally, obviously, you need a specific phone number to sign up for each account. But if they're going from person to person online, they can just trick everyone into signing up and get a whole bunch of numbers. And then those numbers would be used to scam other people. So in this one, you might particularly not lose any money or anything, but still, your number is going to now be associated with some random Google Voice account. And if you do get tricked, you basically have to go through a process which is called reclaiming your number, which I believe involves just signing up for your own Google Voice account and then re-verifying with your phone number, but it'll now be switched onto your actual account that you created and taken off the other one. So yeah, just be aware of this one, because you might not have realized that this was even possibly a scam. All right, next up we have the Zelle payment scam. And this one's interesting because you might not even realize that a lot of banks, possibly even your bank, uses Zelle and may have automatically signed you up so you can receive payments or send payments through Zelle even though you never really made an account for it. And that's what the scammers take advantage of. So how this scam works is scammers will send out mass text messages to a whole bunch of people, and it'll say something like, fraud detected. If you did not make this charge for whatever amount of dollars, reply no or yes. And no matter what you respond, if you do respond at all, they will then call you from a spoofed number to look like the bank and pretend to be the bank's fraud department. Then they'll say something like, oh, we need to verify your identity, and they'll ask for your bank username, not your password, which some people might be thrown off by. And the reason for this is what they're going to try and do is go through the password reset process with you on the phone, but you don't realize that's what's happening. So they basically go onto the bank's website, put in the username you just gave them, and say, forgot password, which will then, with Zelle at least apparently, trigger a text message to be sent to the phone number associated with it, which again is your number, but you might not realize that it is. And what they'll say is, oh, I'm going to be sending you a SMS message with a verification code, and you'll have to read that back to me to make sure you're legit or whatever. And unbeknownst to you, that's not a verification text code. It's a code to reset your password. Anyway, so once they get this number, they basically are able to get into your bank account and potentially even change your password. And because Zelle is tied to your bank account, usually they can use this to send money out of it. Now, I believe in some scenarios, when they do go to try and transfer money out, it will also trigger another confirmation text message. So what they'll probably do is keep you on the line, and they'll say that, hey, you're going to get a text message and it's the refund confirmation. So you have to make sure that you confirm it because I'm sending the money back in your account that was stolen or something like that. Meanwhile, no, it's actually a confirmation for money coming out of your account to the scammer. So you have to be aware of that they will say really anything to get you to put in these codes or confirm the text message. And this one is actually part of a larger trend of scammers realizing they can get around two-factor authentication using SMS codes, because a lot of websites stupidly basically make it so a text message turns into a one-factor authentication where you can reset your password with nothing but the confirmation code on your phone, which then opens up the possibility of scammers simply asking people for it. And even though usually it says never share this code with anyone, people apparently do it anyway. And what's actually apparently really bad about this one is a lot of banks, they say in their terms of service that the Zelle transfer doesn't actually get covered under certain fraud terms, so you kind of might just be out that money. So definitely be aware of this one. All right, on to the next one. We have the cloud access job scam. And this one is another interesting one because it doesn't always scam the person directly, but rather uses them, sort of like the Google Voice scam, to scam other people. Although sometimes, depending on the situation, you can be scammed directly. So how this scam works is the scammers will post a fake job listing online, which people will respond to, and they may even do a mock interview where they don't really show their face, of course, but maybe it's a text interview or over chat or something like that, and then they'll offer you the job, of course, and then afterwards they'll say something like, oh, well, we do have some requirements for you to actually be getting into this job, and we have to have you sign this tax form and an NDA. And first of all, with the tax form, that's not even the main part of the scam, but they might be kind of double dipping by when you do fill that information out, like with your social security number, they might take that and use that later against you. But the main part of the scam is actually this other document, which they may call an NDA, and it'll say things like, oh, to get this job, you need to confirm that you're willing to go through our setup process within 24 hours, or else you won't get the job. And this process basically involves you signing up for a cloud computing account, whether that's AWS, Amazon Web Services, or Google Cloud, something like that. And the payoff for the scammers is they'll ask you, all right, after you set it up, give us the username and password, and we can complete our setup process. And then once you do, of course, then they can use that Google Cloud or AWS account for nefarious purposes. A lot of times these accounts will have a starting bonus credit or something like a trial credit, and those users now used your information that you're now associated with for fraud, which obviously is not good. Or sometimes I believe they may even get you to add your credit card number to the account and then say, oh, we'll reimburse you and we'll give you a bonus if you do this. And then, of course, they can not only just charge the trial credit, but then start using your credit card information for fraudulent purposes by running maybe a DDoS attack or whatever they want to use these computing resources from this account on other people. So if someone asks you to sign up for an account and then you give them the username and password, that's really suspicious, because why couldn't they have just done that for you then? So just be wary that these types of scams are out there. Up next, we have post-disaster scams, which is a more general category, and these are becoming more common simply because there's more things happening. For example, in 2021, there was that huge tornado outbreak, it's being called, where a whole bunch of homes across the United States were destroyed, and then scammers, of course, lined up to take advantage of this. For example, you may see an advertisement or receive a text or phone call, whatever, and it'll say, hey, your eligible for FEMA relief funds. You can get some money, and you just have to pay this fee, and then we'll get you the funds. And obviously, fees for FEMA relief are not a thing. It's a scam to just take your money. Some scammers may also pretend to be government officials as part of the relief effort and say that, oh, to help you out or get you whatever resources, we need to first get your personal information and your banking information, or maybe even transfer money directly. And of course, it's the same idea. They might use it to steal your identity, something like that. So just be very suspicious and only sign up for any kind of resources through official government websites. And an example of one apparently that was more frequent was these scammy debris removal services, where they were not qualified professionals or anything, but they would advertise these services to remove debris from your home or wherever, and they would either demand outrageous prices way above market rate that didn't even make sense to scammy levels, or they may demand money up front and then have crappy work and then refuse to refund you, or just crappy work in general. So of course, just remember, even if you go through a disaster, still try and take the time to vet some of these people that are claiming to be who they are. They might not be. All right, moving on, we have the Geek Squad subscription scam. And no, this is not saying that Geek Squad is the scam, but rather scammers using that name as part of the scam. Now, this scam is actually really similar to other scams, but usually the scammers use something like Amazon. So I'd never seen it used before with Geek Squad, so I figured I'd bring it up. And how this one works is they'll send you a text message or probably an email that will be a fake subscription renewal confirmation. And then they'll say, oh, to contact for information about this order, contact this phone number, of course, which is going to contact the scammer. And then from there, it's the usual. They ask you, oh, what's your credit card info so we can confirm the order or something like that. And of course, they just use that to steal and take your money. And the way to defend against these scams is to simply call the official phone number on the actual retailer's website. So in this case, you'd go on Best Buy's actual website, check their actual phone number. Don't rely on the one that is in the email if you really want to check for it, or just kind of be able to recognize that it is a scam. And also just be aware that these types of scams are not just happening for Apple, iTunes, and Amazon anymore. It's more obscure services. All right, on to the next scam is the Omicron PCR testing scam. And apparently this one is happening mostly in the United Kingdom, but really could happen anywhere. And basically how it works is you'll get a text message or an email, something like that, or maybe even see an advertisement that claims to be a way to get a free COVID Omicron test. And in the United Kingdom, at least, the one that's mostly going around sends you to a website that looks like the NHS, the National Health Service, and basically you have to fill out all your personal information, potentially even a credit card information, and then they'll just steal whatever you put in, and then you don't get the test, obviously. And I remember actually talking about this scam, I think last year, where it was obviously not Omicron, but it was the same story, scammers pretending to be a government agency, and in that one, they did ask for your credit card number for a fee. So just be aware to always only go to the official website and make sure you check that URL. Now, this next scam is definitely not new, but it does show, I think, that scammers are becoming more bold in their scams, and that is that some of them are using even prop fake money to pay for things they are buying from you online. And this actually did happen to someone on Reddit. They posted about it, which is where I got this example, where they sold their iPad in a public place and the person handed them fake prop money where on it literally says for motion picture use only, but they, I guess, didn't inspect it close enough, and you can kind of see it looks different. And they also mentioned it was very, very cold out, which could have been the reason maybe why he didn't notice that it felt different, because your hands are a little bit more numb. Now, in this example specifically, they were given $100 bills, but theoretically, it could happen with any denomination. So if you do receive large bills from anyone really, always be sure to maybe give it an extra glance to make sure it is at least passably real. And I think if you are selling something to a stranger, then check it no matter what the denomination is. Even if it's very small, you want to make sure they're not giving you anything fake that's smaller, because people might not check smaller bills. Now, I was under the impression that prop money was supposed to be either larger or smaller, or have some other characteristics that made it easy to spot up close as being fake, but either the scammers modified it somehow, or the person really didn't look close at all. Okay, coming near the end, we still have a couple more. This next one is child tax credit scams. Now, last year in the United States, the federal government did send out payments in the form of tax credits, depending on if you had children and stuff like that. But theoretically, this could happen anywhere in the world for any government program that is involving sending money to people. And what scammers have been doing is, at the time these payments were going out, and still to this day continuing, saying that, oh, well, you qualify for this tax credit, or maybe by this point they'll say, oh, you're qualifying to get another tax credit. And how this one works is not really a new story. They contact you via text message or voicemail or whatever, email, and they'll say, hey, you qualify for this tax credit, you can get this amount of money, but you have to do XYZ first. And really, the sky is the limit after you contact them and believe it. They could ask for personal information, banking information, a fee or something for the bank transfer. Whatever they say, they're probably gonna try and get as much as they can out of you. And if you do seem like a gullible person, they might not stop at just asking for identity information, but maybe even try to get you to directly pay with a credit card, stuff like that. Okay, finally, we have the emergency broadband program impersonators. Now, this one is actually a really run-of-the-mill scam in terms of the technique, but I wanted to point this one out because the real program, not the scam one obviously, is actually something I think most people should at least know about, so I wanted to mention it. It's just another federal program here in the USA, but basically if you qualify, the government apparently will give you a refund of, or a kind of a rebate of $50 a month for internet service, and like $100 for any laptop you purchase. So that might be worth checking if you're struggling to pay for your internet bill, especially in these times of remote work. You might want to look into that. Of course, just go on the official government website. Don't believe any of these scammers. So let me get to that. The main notable thing I noticed about this scam when I was reading is that apparently scammers are using social media advertising to spread it, not just spam texts and stuff like that. And a lot of people may fall for it because they may expect to get spam on their text message or email, but maybe not see scams in social media advertising like on Facebook or something. And then what happens is you click on this advertisement or click on the link, maybe they do send an email, and then it's the usual, oh, to sign up for this, we need your identity information, we need you to pay this fee, whatever. So just remember, if you do see advertisements for some government program, even if it is a real thing, definitely look it up yourself on the actual government website. Google the actual website. Don't necessarily take an advertisement at face value. So by now you should be at least more aware of some of the more popular scams, though don't think that these are the only ones going around. But if you are aware of the general patterns of these scams, at the end of the day, they're kind of similar, so you can start to recognize them even if it's not exactly the same. Now, if you guys want to keep watching, the next video I'd recommend is one I made talking about how scammers are using new automated bots to trick people into giving away two-factor authentication codes. Like I mentioned, that's kind of a pattern, and it's a little bit different than what I even mentioned here. So definitely check that one out so you're aware of it. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.
And we're back.
And Ross has his hand up.
An email that claims to be from some company, but it seems suspicious. This video is for you. There are plenty of ways for scammers to spoof email addresses.
I did not turn
here
off
I'll show
auto
you how to
restart.
tell if
Just
one
a minute.
is legit using email authentication methods that most big websites use, at least, which are the ones that are most targeted by scammers anyway.
There we are. Okay. Ross Malloy has his hand up. Go, Ross.
So I have worked with computers many years and try to help people with scams after they've been hacked, or try to stop them before they get hacked. The gentleman, we have music from somebody?
No,
No?
I don't hear anything.
From my system then. Anyway, if you did not start the communication, in other words, if you got a text message, an email, a phone call, assume that 99% of those are scams, no matter who it comes from. So that you can need to contact your bank or whoever it is that is sending you that information, supposedly, is really the right person. You have to be careful with that, but it always is a better way to try to do things with that. I see a lot of people call me up and said, my antivirus expired. It tells me my antivirus expired. They don't have that antivirus. They're not using an antivirus, but the notices come from companies. Sometimes they're real companies themselves, but most of the time it's not from that company. So again, if you don't know you have that, contact someone like me, or just ignore it if it was kind of a pop-up from a website. There's a lot of scams out there for all the different antivirus programs. If your computer starts to beep, flash, come up and show you a lock screen, you can't do anything, it says call this phone number, and they'll specifically say do not turn your computer off. The reason they don't want you to turn your computer off is because as soon as you do that, that breaks that communication and you're clear. So turn the computer off, turn it back on again, and 99% of the time it will all be gone. And last, powering your system. If you have any problem with the computer, powering it down, powering it, bring it back up again, and trying again fixes most of those problems. No matter if it's the printer or whatever it is, it's just the first thing to check. That's it.
Yeah. And Ross,
I'd like to comment on Ross's comment about telephone calls you received. I've found a pretty good way of getting rid of most robocalls, and that is just count 2 full seconds from the time you say hello, and if they don't say hello back, hang up. If my daughter calls me and I say hello, she's going to say within the first second, she's going to say, hi, Daddy, this is Dana. And if you don't hear that within the first second or two, it's a robocall. The robocall waits to hear your hello and then prompts the robocaller to start speaking. That takes a good 2 seconds. So hang up quick.
I would
All right,
recommend
I think
you
it's
look at the
time.
caller.
Will's got his hand up. Let's let him go.
Yeah, I get three different scam calls. The one that I've been getting most recently is called the Amazon scam, where you claim that your Amazon account has been billed for buying some outrageous thing. Usually it's something, and you've just been billed for $1,500 for an iPhone, and if you want to contest this and get a rebate on it, uh, press one or whatever. And so what they do, they finally want to get into your bank account. So be very careful on that one. The other one is a Social Security thing where they say, oh, we discovered your car down in South Texas and it has drugs in it. And somehow, again, they're going to get into your bank account. And the third one is what I call the grandpa call, where someone will call in and claim to be your grandchild and need money to get out of jail or whatever. So at least those three he didn't discuss, but those are the ones that I find that they come. So be careful with those kind of things.
My best friend was scammed out of about $3,000 by a hi, Grandpa, I'm in Tijuana jail.
Yeah.
I fix them real good. Before they have a chance to say anything else, I say, "Oh, is that you, Brucey? Are you out of jail now?" That stops them.
Okay, Will, you can put your hand down. Patricia.
You're muted, Pat.
Yeah, I know. I have to get over to that point. I just wanted to. This doesn't have to do with the computers, but this was part of his scam thing, where someone was going to pay you with real money and you were just supposed to feel it in that. We could probably go down to Staples and Office Depot, which is what I did. And there's for about $20, you can get a little. There's two things you can get. One is the little, like a magic marker kind of thing, a highlighter, and you just scan it over and it'll tell you if it's a phony bill. That's not totally foolproof. So there's a second thing that goes along with that too. And I forgot how that worked, but I got them both when I had to deal with people paying me, money. And I think that's a lot better than how it feels and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
If you had to do that.
So any more questions about the presentation on the scams before we shift into regular Q&A?
I had one question about that. It seems like within the last month, I've been getting a rash of all these phony things to sign up for. When you mentioned the antivirus, one of them is McAfee. I think it comes in every other day. McAfee, and I get stuff from, I think it's Lowe's, and just a whole array of things don't have accounts with,
right,
via the email anyway. But it's just the last month, and it's like I'll get 20 a day.
They will find a new way to try to entice you to give them your credit card. So that's what I'm trying to say is don't be too locked in to say, here's the specific scams that we've talked about, and just be very suspicious if someone contacts you. It is probably a scam. And you need to go back to whatever institution, Amazon, your bank, directly and find out what's going on. Don't believe what that person on the phone says. You don't know who that is that's trying to talk to you.
Right. Oh, no, this was like email. And the thing about it is I keep putting it in junk and it still keeps coming back. And so I don't know.
Junk filters work on saying it came from Bill Smith at AOL.com. That's how it gets blocked. So if now Bill Smith 1 sends you an email, it comes right through. So saying I'm going to block an email, I don't want to ever get them again for this particular thing, it's not easy to do.
Okay, thank you.
Dan.
Evolve.
I appreciate you slowing that down. It was a lot easier to understand.
Okay. It was not hard.
Connie?
Connie?
I just wanted to say that recently I got one of those scam emails from Best Buy, and it was talking, supposedly from Best Buy, and it was talking about the fact that they had credited my account with this for like $436. Well, I'm $436 or something. Well, I knew that wasn't right. So I called Best Buy, not the number that they had, of course. And they told me that they had been receiving a lot of those. And I forwarded that email on to their fraud unit. I can't remember the email right now. But what I wanted to say was, it's very scary, maybe. I'm going to use the term. It kind of scares you as a senior like me when all of a sudden you get something that says, oh my gosh, they've charged this against a certain account or whatever. And so I'm just saying that's the fear factor for us seniors and maybe for other people that aren't aware. So it's kind of a right up front kind of thing. Everything looks legitimate. That's the problem. They're getting so smart at this. So I had not heard, I just wanted to say I had not heard about the two-factor identification scam. So that was a new thing for me because I do have two-factor authentication on, several things. But regardless of that, I think that the fear factor is it about the money. The grandchild thing I know about, that's not a big deal to me, but I'd like to know how to have a presentation or something that I could give to some of my other groups, seniors, so that they understand that when they get a phone call, they shouldn't answer it and how to deal with that and maybe how to block the number again, if that's possible.
It's pretty hard to block the calls coming in. What my suggestion is that you look at the caller ID. And if it doesn't say Mary Smith and you know who Mary Smith is, let it go to your voicemail. Mm-hmm. And then most of the scammers will not leave any voicemail. If it is somebody that you know, when you listen to the message, you can call them right back. But try not to answer the telephone unless you know who it is on the other side that's calling you through the caller ID.
Yeah, so my answer machine will answer. I don't answer anything unless I recognize the number and it identifies who it is. Okay, so that's one thing. But the other thing is that they do spoof a lot of numbers into your, like especially I live in National City, so there are some numbers that I know are National City area codes, and they look so familiar and they're not. They're nothing. They're
again,
nothing.
It doesn't come up it should come up and give you the person's name, not just the telephone number that's in your local precincts.
Correct.
So just let it go to the answering machine.
Yeah, correct. I mean, it's just so they're getting so good at this. That's all I guess that's my point, is they're getting smarter and smarter and smarter at this. So it's hard. Thank you.
And they're going to.
Thank you.
It's lucrative for them.
That's right.
Why this is happening.
Yeah, they have incentives.
And there's too many people who are not taking the precautions that we and Ross and the guy on the video are suggesting. Be careful. Will Wakely.
Yeah, one thing they didn't bring up is that a lot of various systems that they have, but the final result is they want to get into your computer, and they do that with a computer sharing system. So if they ever ask you to approve a computer sharing whereby they take over control of your computer, do not ever do that unless you know who it is that you're working with. Now, Ross uses that a lot, but everybody knows that they're working with somebody, with Ross, and that he's not going to give them problems. But don't ever allow anybody else to get into your computer, because if they do, they then can get into your bank account. They can then download all kinds of things on your computer. So beware of that.
I agree with that,
again,
Will,
exactly. They use lots of different systems to do that.
So you need to know who it is that's on the other side of this phone call. If someone called you and says, you have a virus in your computer, this is Microsoft, and we're going to save you from the world, don't believe them. And don't let them in. So if you're getting that close to where there's coming up and saying, click here to allow us in on your computer, you're in big trouble already.
And in this sharing computer business, I have shared my computer with a couple of companies that I needed their help.
Yep.
And I did not share control. I only shared their ability to see what was on my screen.
You can do that. But
And-
again, you contacted them to help you.
Right. Barbara Wilkinson. You got to unmute yourself, Barbara. We can't hear you.
Yeah, I forgot. Okay, I had a call this morning saying my Amazon account was being charged with something. I don't even have an Amazon account, so I just hung up. But the other thing, if I get a suspicious looking email or something I don't recognize, I will hover over my mouse over the address of the sender so I can see what it looks like. And usually it's kind of a very phony looking address. So I just automatically delete it. But good information. We needed it. Thank you.
In many email systems, you can set the you can set the address that the email comes from to display the whole thing. In others, all you get is Hank Drayton. If you set it to show the whole thing, it'll say Hank Drayton, HANKDFRMSD@AOL.com. Set it that way if you can. And if you don't know how, go to Google and say, how do I set the sender's email address to show completely in Yahoo? And you may get a detailed description of how to do what I just said. Patricia.
Anybody know how to do that?
Yeah, just hover over it usually works for me. But my question had to do with when he about the difference, or how do you tell the difference in two-factor identification? How do you tell that, like the guy was mentioning that you think it's a code for two-factor identification, but it's really something about change your password kind of thing? Or at least that's what I got out of it. So how do you tell the difference between those two numbers? Anybody know that?
In his example, somebody contacted him and said, this is a situation, we're going to give you money, we're going to give you refund, you're going to get a tax credit. But again, somebody else initiated the contact.
Oh, okay. So
that's the big red flag to me for everything, because next month is going to be something different than the ones that he listed. So if you didn't start this communication, assume it's a scam. If they said bank, okay, then you hang up and you go to your bank and say, what's going on? Or Amazon or any of the other services, you go to them directly. Don't believe the person on the other side of the email, the text message, the phone call, any of that.
Okay, well then I've got a question, because I haven't had this in a while, but there was a couple times my card was used in San Ysidro when I was up here in Tierra Santa, and basically they were buying $1,000 worth of some sort of iPhone equipment, and actually that's what they were doing. So, and they contacted me. It was a text message, and that really was going on. So is there a way of telling the difference between the real fraud people that are contacting you from your credit card and these phonies?
You, on that kind of a situation, then you need to contact your credit card directly. And then you should get to and say, I was told I had fraud on my account. And they will say, okay, let us transfer you to the fraud department. If you don't have anything there on record saying there was fraud against you, then again, it was a scam. I agree with you that they will contact you sometimes and say there's suspicious activity. Your credit card was used over here. We don't think it was you. Again, go to the bank account, that credit card company directly yourself to the number on the back of the card, or what you have in your system is saying, this is how do I get to my bank? And then go into there and if need be, call their support line and say, I've been reported as having fraud in my account. Can you help me?
Okay. So basically there's no way, you have to call them.
You have to initiate
That's how you have to do it. That's not basically, that's how you have to do it. Again, you don't know who that email came from, that text message, that phone call. You have no control over knowing for sure who it is. If you pick up the phone and dial the number, then you know who it is you're calling.
Okay.
And if you get a call that says they are Wells Fargo and you ought to do this and you ought to do that, or this has happened, there's nothing wrong with saying to whoever that person is, I'm going to call you back. Don't ask for a number to call them back. Just say, I'm going to call you back at Wells Fargo. And hang up the phone, look up the number for Wells Fargo or Google Wells Fargo and see what the number is that pops up on Google. Call that number and say, I just got a phone call from somebody who said they were from Wells Fargo and I ought to do blah, blah. Is that legitimate? Then you'll get the right answer.
And if I could ask Patricia a question, do you ever go online to your credit card account and look at the activity, the transactions?
Well, no, I don't usually have to do that. I just wait for the bill to come in and then I cross off the receipts. I pretty well know that's getting the bill. So
okay, I'm just suggesting that would be another way is if you log into your account, you look at the transactions and you don't see that transaction, odds are whatever you were notified about didn't exist.
Okay, that's an idea. I just have to remember my username and password and all that. It's easier to make a phone call. But thanks, Saul. I'll remember that.
I got scammed this week. I don't think it's going to cost me any money. I got my credit card bill and it was about $600 more than it usually is. And this particular credit card is something that I just have for things that are automatically deducted every month. I look down on the bill and it says convenience check. Someone had gotten a convenience check that I had been mailed. I usually tear them up before I throw them in the trash can, but I guess I didn't. They wrote a check for $500 to somebody, and that showed up on my credit card bill.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah.
Look at your credit card bills before you pay them.
So did you get your money back?
I just wanted to say that, I think it was Pat was saying that, she's getting a whole lot of these phone calls and things like that. One of the things that happened to me and is that, I was getting a bunch of these phone calls and I listened to it and basically, it said, well, press 1 if you want this, press, 2 if you want to be removed from our list. And so after a bunch of these, I pressed 2 to get removed from the list. I started getting more phone calls. That means it was a scam. All they wanted to know is that someone presses a button. They know there's a live person there. And so my general rule is if it's a reputable place that I know, whether it's an email or something like that, and I want to unsubscribe, I'll try to unsubscribe. If it looks at all fishy, I'm not even going to hit the unsubscribe button. I'm just going to trash it immediately because they're just looking for a live fish.
Yeah. The unsubscribe feature in Gmail works very well for me, where you can say, if you get an email and it's in your inbox, you can tell them to unsubscribe and block. So if it comes from that email address, again, they're going to block it and they will block it at their front door. And if they get enough complaints, again, the same way, they will block it and won't even let emails into other people from that same service.
But this is also with phone calls where it says you might be taken off of our phone list. And
yes,
the exact same thing appears there.
So again, my answer to that is that you let it go to the answering machine unless you know who it is. You never picked it up.
Yeah, and if they just think it's a dead number, then you will not be becoming of more interest to them, which is not what you want.
What is my
Mel Weekly.
Well, there's been an interesting development on this, in that I get things now from you, from Will, from Saul, saying that you recommend that I go to this particular one or that particular one, and it basically is leading me into these. So I'm not sure how or why they're doing this, but be real careful, watch out for those.
You say you're getting an email from me about a scam email?
And so you get an email from me about it's this kind of same kind of scam thing we're talking.
I get an email from you, Will. It says Will Wakely, but it isn't your email address. So somewhere along the line, somebody has gotten your email address and then is using it as the email name when they send emails out. It's a scam. So again, even if you of hovering over the email and it gives you a different email address than what you expect Will to have, then you know it's a scam. There's nothing you can do about that because somebody else is still using, just using their email account, putting your name on it, and then sending emails.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And the revealing thing to me about those kinds of emails is they usually say something like, "This is really interesting. Click here to see it."
Well, yeah.
And that's what you don't want to do. Do not click on an email that says it's from Will Wakely when it doesn't sound like Will Wakely. Put it in spam. Mr. Melvin, you're still up.
No, I'll get it done here now.
You done?
Yes.
Will.
Yeah, I wanted to comment that if you're going on a trip, and you're going to be a long way away from San Diego or whatever your home is, it's sometimes a good idea, and you're going to be gone for a while and use your credit card. It's a good idea to notify the credit card company that you are going to some other location, because, you know, if they get a credit card charge from Barcelona, they're going to question whether it's you. And so I find that it's helpful sometimes to notify the credit card company of that you're going to be at a foreign location. Anybody else have that problem when you go somewhere and do a credit card billing and then they question?
Yes, sometimes you can't even, they won't even take the credit card won't accept it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's just a point I made.
Some credit card companies, they don't want to know where you're going. They say they don't even need it. I think the Costco card is like that. There's a couple cards that you don't need to, even if it's out of the country, but some you have to.
Dan.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment on those email messages. I use my Hotmail account and I accessed it through a Tor browser. And then I got a message that's strange activity on my account because they didn't recognize where it was coming from. So be careful or remember what you're doing.
Oh, that's tough.
That's a senior admonishment. Remember what you're doing. And if you can't, don't do it. Yes, Connie.
Okay, back to the credit card fraud type things. I recommend you checking your account several times a month for one thing. Don't let that go. The other thing is I have my credit card set for a limit. So if they get a charge, an online charge or something, I will get an email. So that's like a little thing where I know, oops, here comes your upcoming charge for like Chewies.com, which is I have animals, so I use Chewies a lot. So I think setting those alerts for a certain amount of money or just setting them is a good idea. Just a heads up that somebody's used your card for a certain amount of money. And that's pretty easy to do, as I recall. So I would just recommend that. But number one, check that account during the month to make sure that the charges are all legitimate. That's it. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Connie. That's a good idea for setting a limit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a kind of a heads up that because you forget. I've set up to pay my SDG&E bill automatically or something like that. I tend to use my credit card because I get air miles for it. So it's one card. It's one card. So I know normally what's coming, but once in a while I'll get that. Like I just renewed my the Geek Squad thing because I just talked to them and said, no, your charge is coming in June. That's when it's going to automatically renew. So I mean, those automatically renewed things, they will give you a heads up.
Come on Zoom, honey.
That's it. So just check it. That's all. You have to be vigilant.
Patricia.
Well, first of all, for Connie, yes, every time I have a credit card, I set up all sorts of alerts. I mean, there's all sorts of them that you can do. And I do just about all of them. And I try to get them through texting and through email. But what I really wanted to ask about or let everybody know, what I do for my landline is, if I get the call and I don't recognize the number, I don't really do anything except that now I have just started and it seems to working. Knock on wood, it's been quiet, but I just disconnect. If I don't recognize the number, I just disconnect. And then I figure if they call back, then they might be legitimate and I'll maybe take another look and see if they say anything. But basically, it's gotten a lot quieter now that I just disconnect if I don't recognize the number or if there's an unknown or something of that sort. Seems like it's working. I'm gonna try it.
There's another thing that I believe is correct, that most robocalls will only ring a fairly small number of times, like 3 or 4 or 5.
Two, usually
Right.
2.
Just enough to be annoying.
What?
It's just enough to be annoying so that you have to come clear across the house to see that it's like nobody.
Well, yeah, but my point is that if my daughter calls me and I don't answer, she's going to let it ring all the way through until it goes to voicemail. So if your voicemail is set to ring for 5 or 6 times, the robocalls will not ever get to voicemail because they don't stay on there that long. Now, I don't know if what I just said is true, but that is an impression that I have gotten from observing what happens to me. Melvin.
2 things. In response to what you just said, I don't experience that. They'll ring 15, 20 times if I let them. Most of the time, I recognize they're not legitimate, so I just let them ring. And then going back to when you're leaving the area where you normally are, letting your credit card company can be a big plus because what happens, especially for overseas travel, they'll block the credit card, and then they will contact you and let you know it's been blocked and want you to verify it in some way. Those are the ones that get me real suspicious, because is that really from a credit card company, or is that as one of these spam account things? So I want to avoid that by having notified the bank that you're going out of the area and you're going to be in a certain area. You avoid the blocking of the payments and stuff, denying of the credit card. So letting them know ahead of time really makes a big difference for you. Sorry about my voice here. I've got a throat infection. Quickly on after this meeting's over to get it taken care of out.
Will Wakely, you're up.
Yeah, I use an internet phone system that Ross Malloy recommended. It's called the system. Oh, it's very good. It just rings. Will take. Interesting is the voice message ends up on my internet. I'm sorry, it ends up on my email, which is very interesting. I was surprised that happened. But that's one thing I would recommend. The other is rather than use credit card, I try to use PayPal as much as PayPal will protect you if you get a false or a fake charge. They are very good about refunding your money from it. Also, there is another Ross recommend Nomobo, Nomobo. Use that from the internet, and that will then only ring twice if it is a scam call or a known bad call. So that system works pretty well also. So thank you.
That is Nomorobo. Is that right? Right, Will? You're talking
yes,
about
Nomorobo.
Yeah.
And you can download that from the internet.
Abbreviated.
And so that will take any calls that this system knows are scam calls or bad calls, and will just cut it off after 2 rings. So I always let it ring at least twice. Usually I read, no, I'm sorry, the UMA shuts it off after 4 calls. 4 rings.
And the name of your your internet telephone company is
UMA. OOMA.
Yeah, UMA.
And what's nice about that, you only get charged for the taxes on your call, which is like $5 a month, and that's your total phone call.
Well, you're breaking up, but I use UMA for about 5-6 years, maybe even longer now. And yes, I have the voicemails go to email, but that costs me another $10 a month. I think it's well worthwhile for that service. But if you just want to have the telephone service itself, yes, that the only thing that you pay are the federal taxes. So like $2.50 per line.
Oh, I don't want it to go to email if it costs me money. So how do I cancel that? I guess I call UMA and straighten that out. I wasn't aware of that.
You usually pay for that on an annual basis. So you may have paid for it by the year. That was a part of the $100 bill that you had at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Patricia.
I think it's worthwhile. I think it's great.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, when somebody leaves a voicemail, a audio file, and I play that and the phone and playing a response.
Patricia.
Well, I have a question about those Nomorobos, and then Will kind of reminded me of something else. But the Nomorobos, you know how you get the reminder calls that you have an appointment? And they're usually robocalls. So how do you work around that? Because they can be coming from anywhere, from any number.
Well, Nomorobo is a service kind of like a spam filter. You can add and remove companies from that list. So the reason, if someone else has said, if they get a call from this number, which happens to be the same number as your doctor's telephone number that's calling you with those reminders, then yep, those are going to get blocked. But you can get that unblocked when you sign into your account at Nomorobo. and say, this number I want to come through. But that's how the service is they have a computer system that stores all the telephone numbers that other people have stated that these are scam calls. And so if it comes up, when it rings in your house, it rings on their computer. They look it up on the list and say, yep, that's a bad number, and then they block it. The downside is, as what the gentleman mentioned today on the call, is that to get a telephone number it costs them virtually nothing through Google Voice. And so they can just keep changing to different telephone numbers. Also, what I've seen is that on the caller ID, it will come up with a weird number in there that's not actually a telephone number. And that can futz with them. When I go in to say, okay, no more robo, block this number. And they go, we can't, because we can't recognize that as a good, valid telephone number. But it does help quite a bit.
Rob, how do you contact No More Robo?
Through nomorobo.com.
Oh, okay.
But you can also do it on UMA. If you go into your webpage at UMA and sign into your account, it'll show you your call log, and also you can block and unblock calls there.
Hey, thanks. Didn't know that.
Okay, so when you're blocking, say, like I'm with Scripps, for instance, and there's like all kinds of phone numbers. Can you just put like in Scripps and then they will, unblock? You have to have each specific number. Oh Lord, that'd be bad. Okay. And then the other thing, this is probably going to sound stupid, but how do you make a internet phone call? What do you do? How would you do that? I've never done that.
Well, you have a service that you use, like Zoom, like Skype, and then that's a telephone, it's a service that you run on your computer that the person on the other side has that service. So the most popular one for a long time had been Skype. So if someone signs up with Skype and you sign up for Skype, then that person's telephone number in your contact list, you click on that, and from computer to computer, it's free.
Okay.
Anywhere in the world.
Okay. So in other words, you have to do all this stuff on your computer. You can't walk around with a phone or something like that, or unless you use a cell phone.
Well, you can use Zoom on your cell phone. And I haven't used Skype for a long time, but I would expect that you could.
Well, the cell phone has a face-to-face video phone connection. I've forgotten what it is.
Who does, sir?
The cell phone.
The iPad.
So if, let's say you have a Verizon call, Verizon phone, and the other person has a Verizon call, then yes, I know you can make a video call between those two Verizon customers. I don't know about any of the other services that offer that. I'm sure they might. I don't think you can go from T-Mobile to Verizon with a video call.
Saul?
Just to clarify from Pat, in case we misunderstood what she was asking about, in the earlier discussion, it was mentioned about internet phone calls like voice over IP. Maybe she was asking about that and not a computer to computer type of phone call.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Yes. Saul, that's what I was talking about, because I've already got, FaceTime with the iPhone. And then actually there is another one that I use when I call people with an Android. And I think it was something from Google. It was Hangouts, and then it became something else. But I can do all that on the phone. But the VoIP thing, or whatever you call it, that's what I don't get.
Well, most telephone calls now, even if you have, say, Time Warner or Cox, or even the new AT&T service, those are voice over IP. You're already getting that from them as a voice over IP. If you have with AT&T an older service, they actually use the telephone lines to make phone calls with. But they don't usually do that, and they're trying to get away from that altogether. So it's just internet based. What Will and I were speaking of is a service called UMA. And UMA is a service you can buy the telephones through Costco, And it's about $100, $120 for the device and a telephone. And that plugs into your internet on one side, and then you plug your telephones, the standard wired telephones that you have now, or wireless, whatever you have, into this device. And that becomes your landline. I do not have any voice over IP or landline service from any other company other than UMA.
Okay. So you'd have to go out and buy another phone then. And then would the other person have to have the same kind of phone?
So I took my telephone number that I had and moved it to UMA. You can do what's called porting. And you take that telephone number, whether it's a landline, a cell phone number, whatever it is, you can take that from one service to another. It costs about $50 for them to run that service. But then once you do that, then that new service owns that telephone number until you choose to move it somewhere else. I chose to move my landline, my second landline, to UMA because Spectrum wanted $50 a month. And I didn't want to pay $50 a month for another telephone line. Moving it to UMA with an UMA box that I paid $100 and some for, then I was able to drop that charge through Spectrum. And again, as Will mentioned, all that you have to pay are the federal taxes on that telephone line, which is like $2.50.
Yeah, I might have to do that. Okay.
And just to clarify what Ross is saying, I'm sorry, Ross, to interrupt you. Those work with just standard old telephones.
Right. You don't have to have another telephone. It'll run. I have purchased phones from UMA, and I'm happy with those. But any wired telephone that you have now that has a standard telephone, an RJ11 cable on it, will plug right into the UMA box. Now you can buy those UMA boxes from Costco. And
so
also,
if I understand this right, I have to have the phone, and I can use my phone, but I have to go get a box.
Right.
From
that's what connects your internet to this box, which is now voice over IP. If you do Consumer Reports, look up in Consumer Reports. There was a very high review of UMA for voice over IP versus, say, Magic Jack or some of the other services.
I paid $60.
Okay, Ross, let me make sure that people understand. When you buy the UMA box and use their telephone or your old telephone to hook to that UMA box, and you pick up your phone and dial my landline,
right?
My landline rings, right?
Right. It's just it's another way to get to dial tone.
Yeah. So all you need to do is change your end of it, but everything else works the same way. And
That's
anyone you call on a regular phone, their regular phone rings. It
Yeah,
just
they don't know, they don't care. You don't have to do anything different.
But from your house.
Yes.
To my house.
Yes.
Goes mostly through the internet until it gets to my telephone.
It I believe it does anyway now, even if it's through AT&T. But yes, it goes through the internet. If my internet goes down, then I lose telephone service. But I also have a cell phone, so that's not an issue for me to say because my internet or power went out, I don't have access to that service.
Yeah. And the other thing you lose is the automatic identification system if you dial 911.
Well,
they will not know where your house is, right, Ross?
When you set up the service, that's one of their questions that they ask is if you call 911, what address do you want them to go to? You do the same thing on the cell phone.
Good. So that's better.
So with you, Mr. Hank, if you were to have one of these UMA boxes, you get it set up for your place in Hawaii, And when you come back to San Diego, you pick up that box and bring it with you. You plug it in your internet here, and that same telephone number will ring.
And if I dial 911 in San Diego, the fire engines in Hawaii will respond.
Well, you need to go in on that setup.
I need to go tell them I moved.
Go here instead of there.
Isn't life complicated, everybody? Isn't it fun?
Yeah. It's the same as on the cell phone. The cell phone, company, when you call 911, they don't know where you're calling from because it could be literally anywhere.
I know. And if you're on the freeway in California and you dial 911 on your cell phone, the California Highway Patrol answers. I learned that the hard way. Miriam.
Are you getting caller ID on this and call waiting and all that sort of thing?
Anything you want.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
But you'll probably pay.
No. So, Patricia, I would have you go to uma.com and look at the service that they have there and see this is what they offer for you. I use the service where if someone leaves me a voicemail, it gets emailed to me, but I pay for that like $10 a year or $10 a month, which calling and having answering service for that for my business really helps. So I pay for that.
Yeah. You don't have to go listen to all those voicemails.
Well,
you can read it.
My turn now?
It comes to me on my cell phone no matter where I am.
Miriam, next.
Miriam, you're up.
I wanted to tell people that I have made video phone calls with my grandsons, and we've used two different mechanisms. One of them is called Google Duo, and the other one is on WhatsApp. And they both work very nicely.
Yeah.
WhatsApp?
Service.
WhatsApp, yeah. WhatsApp is an encrypted internet correspondence. Email, you can do email, and you can do these video calls.
It's part of something else, isn't it? Isn't it part of Facebook?
I think it's owned by Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, now it is, yeah.
Okay, you done, Miriam?
I'm done.
David.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk with Pat. When you were first talking about your phone, because your regular cell phone it's got two different radios in it. It's got the radio that is the cell phone company, the 3G, 4G, 5G stuff. It's also got a Wi-Fi in there. If I'm connected to my local Wi-Fi, it'll usually route those phone calls through my Wi-Fi, and I don't notice anything different. It still goes through like a phone call. It's just a different way to getting into the phone system. So in that sense, you could actually be at a place where there is no phone signal, but if you have Wi-Fi signal, you can still make phone calls.
Yes.
And so all the UMA stuff is not to replace that kind of phone, it's to replace this kind of phone, which is sitting on your desk or in your house.
Right, a landline. Well, the only problem I had with that, why I kept my landline, is I've been several places where, well, actually in Terrasana, when you first moved out here, I mean, your internet went down, or you had no electricity for not like a couple hours or anything. It'd be like a day and a half and that sort of thing. So I had to have a real landline. It's gotten a little better, but it still goes every now and then.
But the nice thing is if your internet goes down, the 3G, 4G, 5G signal from the phone company is usually still there.
Yeah, but you still have to charge it, and that requires electricity.
Well, I mean, okay, fine. There's batteries and things around that you can probably charge with if you're worried about that. But usually this thing is good for several hours of talking anyway on a battery charge. So, but in some ways, if my internet goes down, I have this thing. If I don't want to if I have no phone signal, then I can use internet instead. And they both work pretty darn well that way. But that's your mobile phone. UMA and everything is to replace your landline phone.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Dan Chromebox.
Yes, do I understand that if I'm using UMA, I will still have to pay for internet service?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alice King.
Are we going to have time for Q&A and comments?
Yes, when people stop asking the scam questions.
All right, I would like to be first up when that happens.
Go ahead.
Okay. If we're done with scam questions, we're now on Q&A. Go, Alice.
I actually just have an interesting comment. A lot of you might be like an update. I work with the Rancho Bernardo Senior Center, Senior Services, and I found out yesterday that Oasis has acquired land in Rancho Bernardo, and next fall they will be opening an enormous headquarters. It will be equal to or bigger than what they have right now, and they will have a meeting room for 200 people. They're going to have sessions for computer planning, all the services that they've had. Now, I'm still trying to get a hold of the Speakers Bureau, but it's kind of interesting that that will be available, and it's going to be located very close to the library. If you're familiar with Rancho Bernardo, just off the 15 and Rancho Bernardo Boulevard. But it's interesting because it will be a headquarters. It's going to be as big, or if not bigger, than what they currently have.
We have tried to get Oasis to come and speak to us back in the days when we had speakers in Woodbury Hall. I'd still like to contact them.
No, and I have the number. I contact them frequently, and they still are not back into full operation from the pandemic. But I think by next fall that they will be. That's what I was told yesterday. So we'll keep working on it. But anyway, it's just interesting that they're going to have this big a facility out here.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay, more Q&A. I don't see any hands. That's amazing.
Oh, there's a hand. Yeah, I wanted to ask a question about it. I was having internet problems, so I did what was recommended and bought an adapter, which runs the Ethernet through my house wiring. And I have like 400 megabit at the router, and I can measure it there with no problem. And I hooked up this system that puts it through the house wiring. And when I got down to my computer outlet, I found that I only had 5 megabit, which really upset me. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe I got a lot of rust on my house wiring or something, but I'm very disappointed with that. And I don't understand why it degrades so much going through the house wiring. I try other outlets around the house, and I do get much better connection there. And the closer I get to my router, the better the connection is. But I'm amazed that it goes from 400 megabit down to 5 megabit at the other end of the house.
Will, I've had a similar type of thing with mine, and I think it's just the older the house and the more the wiring in the house has to go through junction boxes and things, the more the signal degrades.
Yeah, well, down to 5 is very disappointing.
Yeah, you got bad luck there.
Yeah.
Well, you said you get higher speed when you go to other locations in your house.
Yes.
Then there's a wiring issue to where you are.
Yes.
And what they have to do is they have to use that wire. So let's say if the wire at the modem goes from where the modem is out to the panel where the switches are, the circuit breakers are, and then again they have to go back from there to where you are trying to get your service. And so that's the full length of that wire is what that device needs to work with. So again, if it was right next door and it was on the same circuit, boy, you're going to have quick. If it's the other end of the house, it can be a problem.
Yeah, I'm amazed that it degrades that much. That's all.
Isn't that where you'd get a Wi-Fi extender or something like that?
These are adapters that plug into your house outlets and sends the signal over your house wiring.
It's like a cable extender as opposed to a Wi-Fi extender.
Yeah, it's essentially an Ethernet extender. Yeah.
Oh, so it's an actual connection.
It's Ethernet over power is what it's called. And yes, I have worked with those. I have one in my place and I've installed them. Yes, most of the time if I use the TP-Link Wi-Fi extenders that plug into an outlet, and you put that halfway between where your modem is and where you want to get service, that then boosts the signal. You can go through with that, and you push the button on the front of it. It finds the Wi-Fi's that you have there, able to figure out the password, and then now you will see that Wi-Fi now being boosted so that you can go to a longer distance.
That for Wi-Fi, and I get about 20 megabit at the computer a long way away from the router.
Stanley.
You're breaking up today again, Will.
Yeah, I guess I still got problems.
Yeah, well, Will, here's a thought. If you can get a thing that plugs in and gets your Ethernet close to your room, then you plug a Wi-Fi extender into that and it's close to your room. You may have a Wi-Fi extender that's close to your room. You may be able to get a decent Wi-Fi speed from that. I mean, just like Ross was saying, you can put something halfway in between, but maybe you can use that wiring to get the high speed closer to your room where you want the signal to be.
Okay, thank you, Hank. I just want to thank you all for being here. I'm not wrapping up the meeting, but I thought I'd jump in before the end of the meeting and say I thought this was a very good meeting, a good YouTube presentation, and a good discussion. And I marveled at the amount of resources we have within our group. The other thing, I noticed that the transcription is working well. And I would just like to suggest that for our board meeting, which is 2 weeks from now, we stay with this AppSug provided Zoom meeting because the captions are working, video has always worked, and I see no reason to switch back and forth between hosts. Hank,
bless you, Stanley. Bless you.
I'd like to know how we got the closed captioning activated on this. That would be probably an interesting story. Anyway, that's all that comes to mind now. But I think this is working well. I'm downloading transcript, and I see that video is being recorded. Also, I've been able to record video onto my computer of this session, and so this looks like a big improvement over what we had before. Thank you, Hank, and our expert resources that are present. Oh, one other thing. For those of you who are not members of the Senior Computer Group, I encourage you to subscribe. I think we're finding this is very valuable. It's going to continue on in the future, and we welcome you to membership.
Hear, hear. Dan Chromebox.
Yes, I'm speaking to Will. I think he's got those two devices on different phases of his electrical circuit. And
well, no, it says connect, so I assumed if it was on different circuits that it wouldn't even connect.
No. He's speaking about the wiring in your house.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. If it's on a different circuit, would it say connect?
Yes, it can, all back through your switch box. But again, if it's having to go from a different phase, then so say you have 220 coming into your house, and you're on one phase from part of the house and one phase for the other part of the house, then that can cause your performance issues, I believe.
Yeah, I just assumed that it wouldn't even connect if they were on different circuits.
It all connects back at your circuit box.
I'll take a
It
look.
just has to go further.
if you look at your circuit box, there's probably 2 rows of circuit breakers, and one is on one phase and the other one's on the other phase. So if they're both on the same side, you're probably okay. If one of them is on the left and one is on the right, you're probably on a different phase.
Yeah, okay.
And I would just say that would explain why you're getting 5 millibits per second on one outlet and you're getting hundreds of megabits on another outlet, because the other outlet that's getting good performance is on the same phase as the router network adapter is on.
Yeah. Okay, I'll look into that.
Okay,
How can I
I'm
tell-
up. I don't have a question. I have a story I want to tell you, and maybe I will learn something from the comments on the story. The story's a little lengthy, sorry. About 2 years ago, my television in my Hawaii house died. I found a new television at an Air Force exchange, which was very inexpensive. I think the whole thing was $300, and it included Roku. As you know, Roku is a streaming service, and this television is automatically connected to Roku and any other streaming that you have on your local Wi-Fi. So I began watching movies in the evenings on that new television set on Amazon Prime Video.
Yep.
I happen to subscribe to Amazon Prime in Hawaii because you get free delivery, and free delivery in Hawaii is devoutly to be wished.
Yes.
So it was a good investment. So that automatically gave me Amazon Prime movies. And I have been watching them for about 2 years. Well, about 3 weeks ago, my Amazon Prime movies began dropping out after being on for 3 or 4 minutes. And I could hook back up again and start, click resume on the movie. And it would pick up where I had left off sometimes and run for another 3 or 4 minutes. And that continued till one night I said, oh, the hell with it. And instead of watching Amazon Prime, I moved over to YouTube, which is also streaming into my computer. And that made me scratch my head because I figured that I was getting YouTube over the same Wi-Fi circuit that I was getting Amazon Prime. But YouTube never dropped out. So that's what I watched that night. The next night I came back and put on Amazon Prime, and it ran all night without dropping. And the next night I came back and it ran all night, and the next night I came back and it dropped out after 4 minutes every time. So this is getting a little annoying. Last night, I finally decided to just root around until something clicked. And in the process of that, I unplugged my Wi-Fi extender. It's a TP-37EXT was the address. And my address of my regular Wi-Fi is Abakea, which is the name of my street, Abakea HD, my initials. And when I unplugged my extender, my television set automatically went and found the Abakea HD and hooked up to that, and then Amazon Prime worked fine and stopped dropping. I think I have a broken Wi-Fi extender, which is now still unplugged. In fact, it's sitting here in my, there it is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave it unplugged. Anyone have any comments to educate me? Mr. Malloy.
I would have you make sure that's just like it's a router. So you can talk to that from your computer. I would make sure that you have the latest version of the firmware in that device, and then do a complete reset so that it needs to find your services again. You can use that. What I do with it is we set it up as close to the modem as I can get, and you plug straight into the wall. You don't go through a power strip. You plug this device straight into the wall. get it connected to the Wi-Fi's that you want, and you can then again through your browser get to that device and say, yep, it's connected to X, and then move it to halfway between where your modem is and your TV is. And it will then reconnect and say, here we go. Then you can do a speed test on your television through Roku. You bring up the browser and go to Google and say speed test, and you can find out what your performance is through that device to your television.
You're telling me to do all sorts of things that I'm not sure I know how to do. So maybe I will consult with you by email.
Okay.
But
Hank, I just wanted to say that, over the years, I've had things where if I have a internet connection that seemed to be working before and then gets crappy, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reboot whatever device is connecting to that thing. And usually it'll be my cable modem for me, and basically get a brand new connection. And if that's good, you're fine. If you get another lousy connection, fine, reboot it again. I'll get another one until I get a nice good one. And that's, good for a long time, usually.
That's how I got this thing to start working again. I went through a troubleshooting procedure, and it told me what to do step by step, like unplug the modem, wait 30 seconds, plug it back in, unplug the router, wait 30 seconds, plug it back in, unplug the extender, and that's when the television hooked up without going through the extender and began working continuously.
Yep. So, anything can, after a long time, anything can get clogged, and you just resetting it, like Ross talked about earlier, is the first thing you do with almost anything is let it start up with a fresh, clean memory, and then it could work again.
But that didn't work. I unplugged the extender, let it sit for a while,
the extender is a
plugged
computer
it back
as well.
in, and it still drops me after 5 minutes.
So, the gold standard is a hard wire.
Yeah.
You would have to pay somebody to come out and run a wire from where your modem is to where your TV is. That'll cost usually in a range of $100. But by the time that you mess around with the extenders and trying to get them to work, and they are good, I use them, like I said, but they are not the best that you can have.
I have not tried the wired extender yet. And I'm not trying anything right now. I bought the extender because my TV would go into wait mode, hourglass mode. But it hasn't gone into hourglass mode since I've disabled the extender.
How far is your TV? How far is your TV from your router?
Well, who's talking first? Will, you go ahead, Will.
How far is your TV from your router?
1, 2, 3 rooms.
Okay.
Probably a total of 70 feet.
So mine doesn't work well because on the other side of my office is where we have our stack washer and dryer. So there's sheet metal right there. So trying to get through that causes problems. You can go to like Home Depot, and after you have paced the distance from where your TV is and where your modem is, you can buy a 50-foot or 100-foot cable for $20, $30, and then bring it back and plug it in and see if that fixes the issue.
Oh yeah, but where am I going to run this cable?
Where I'm saying, I have a gentleman whose name is Guy, who is my wiring guy, and say, Guy, I want to go from here to here with an Ethernet. He goes, yes, sir. And he punches a hole in the wall and goes up to the attic or down to the floor, whatever the best way is, and runs a hard wire from one location to another.
There's no attic in a Hawaii single wall construction house.
So there are flat Ethernet cables that can go under carpet.
Don't have carpet. Okay. Vinyl. I don't want to run my Ethernet cable under my vinyl flooring. I know what you're saying, Ross. It's not practical in this kind of a slab house in Hawaii.
If you talk to a wiring contractor, someone in the neighborhood there, he will say this is how we can do it. Now, it might be that they go around the outside of the house like they do with cable wiring sometimes.
Yep, that's what they'd have to do here. And that'd make it 170 feet.
As long as it's under 300, you're fine.
Okay, might be 270.
And Hank, you might have a look at the device that Will is having a problem with, and it might work fine in your house.
Yeah. If I need an extender, the next thing I'm going to do is do a wired extender through the electrical cabling that Ross has been talking about.
Yeah,
I'm ready to stop boring you with this subject and move on. Patricia, you're back up.
But you're still muted.
Yeah, I know. I got to get over it. I have problems with the mouse as well as being left-handed, etc. But anyway, what I wanted to ask is a little bit more mundane with this thing. But Hank, you said that you went and did you watch the same movie on YouTube, and did you subscribe to YouTube, or how did that work with YouTube?
I went to the menu in my Roku device, and one of them is search, and I searched for YouTube and found it and clicked install, and there it is.
Okay, so did you pay for that, or how
No.
does that?
So again, he probably did not watch exactly the same movie that he had available to him through Amazon. He watched something else. You can get full movies through YouTube without paying for them. Some will be with commercials. Some will be without commercials. Some will be when you have to pay for them. But that's all up to YouTube.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I can get Fox Nation now on my Roku device, and Tubi for free movies, and Pluto for not free movies.
Okay, I just wondered because I get all these emails that I was telling you about earlier. Well, part of them is if I wanted to subscribe to YouTube, so that's why I thought maybe you had to subscribe to it. But now that I know, well, thank you.
Pat, do you need a left-handed mouse?
No, this thing's going to come off in 3 weeks, and this mouse was giving me issues anyway. So there's so many things I have to fix with this thing. So,
but you can get a left-hand. You can change your mouse to left-handed if you want to.
Yeah, I heard that, but I thought that it might be more of an issue anyway.
Very
so you can use any USB mouse on your Mac. Does not have to be one from Apple. So if you want to have a Logitech mouse or a Microsoft mouse, it will plug right in. And as far as making it a right hand or a left hand, yes, there are some that are slanted in the design of the hand area, but you can also reverse the buttons if you say, I want to be left-handed, and use the buttons in reverse order.
Yeah, I think I'm good. It's only another couple of weeks, I hope. But thanks.
Here's some of the things you can get on Roku, just to share what was asked. Here we go. This is Roku's website, and here's their listing of some things that they can stream.
Oh,
let's see what it says if I click free TV.
Yeah. Some are free and some are subscription.
Here we go. Free TV. Crackle. I don't see here's Pluto. Live TV.
So that's all Roku, not just your Roku.
Well, Roku is a service that's on the television, and the things that you see up on there are what paid that particular TV company to have those buttons there. Now, you can go back and add other things, but the default are whatever companies, again, paid the television company to put their buttons on the screen.
I see. Okay, thank you.
David McCall.
All right, since we're talking Roku, I have a friend that moved down to a facility, and she's got a TV. She's got a Roku streaming stick, and I was down there a couple days ago, and we were trying to getting it set up, and a very strange thing happened. The icons for both Amazon Prime and for Netflix, basically they didn't disappear. They just have the generic icon of something there. So there's something strange. We try to go into either one of those and they don't play. I've gone in there and I've updated the software on the Roku. I have reset the Roku and it doesn't come back. The only thing that I have left is factory reset.
So where is this friend? Where are they located?
They're down at St. Paul's Villa in Chula Vista.
That shouldn't be an issue. I was thinking if they were happen to be on the other side of the border, because it does get touchy about services outside the United States. But
yeah, other channels work, but there's something. It feels like something in that Roku stick has got something corrupted on those two channels. I've tried deleting Netflix and bringing it back in, and it comes back broken as it was when I got rid of it. So my next thing is to try to factory reset the Roku stick, and then we have to log it. We have to basically log into the accounts that we have and everything. And I was trying to avoid that.
My solution was, when I got a Roku and started working with it and tried to find the streaming services and learn how to play videos that I had downloaded, or download something from one place and play it on my Roku. I had all kinds of problems trying to learn how to do that. So my solution is to take a laptop PC and plug that into the television by an HDMI port. Then I have that connected to the internet. So then it's my computer that's connected to the internet that I do all those things on, whether it's Netflix or any of the other services. I do it just through the internet on that device.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure my friend was like that, but we did check with her laptop. I can get the Netflix, I can sign into the account, I can see stuff on her laptop screen that's, this big, not the big television screen. And
so what I did then also is I put a keyboard and a mouse, Microsoft keyboard, Bluetooth keyboard and mouse. And when I go over to the laptop, then I'm just on that computer. So I have one computer. So if she would use her existing laptop connected to that monitor TV, then she'd have everything in one physical box.
Yeah. That's a backup thing that we can try if we do. But yeah, she has this Roku streaming stick and she'd like to use it for the thing.
I just want it to work. I understand. I hear that all the time.
I paid for it. I want it.
It used to work this way, and I want it to work that way again.
Yeah. But I just wondering if you had
I can't help you.
If anyone had any experience on basically where the icons on the Roku just weren't showing up. They basically, it just shows up a little generic icon. It still says Netflix when I move the highlight to it. I click on it, it gets a UI error or something like that. And I look up that on the Roku thing and it says, well, go into Netflix and then do this. And I said, well, I can't get into Netflix, is the problem.
Well, you can get into Netflix off of a PC.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's the Roku part of it that's telling it to. Anyway, I'm going to go down there and try basically doing the factory reset on the Roku stick and see if that brings it back to sanity. But if anyone had any experience on doing anything else, I would like to do that without having to, reset up all the channels that were there.
I have a Roku TV. And but it seems to work okay. But you're right, I did have a problem with Netflix, and I had to go in with her and do something to make it work.
Yeah, it's one of these things that unfortunately, it was working some other place, and then when she moved there, it came out, and now it's not working. So
I think that I have, well, I know I pay for a Netflix disc subscription, not for streaming, just for discs. They mail them to me, I watch them, and I mail them back. But when I go to my Roku device and click on Netflix, I think I get streaming.
yeah, you can probably get streaming too, but I've noticed sometimes on my Roku, if I'm looking for something, it will tell me all the things I could get from the disc service that I'm not paying for, so I can't get it.
Mr. David,
Yes.
You said you worked at another location but isn't working now. I wonder if in the Roku device, and then there the network card configuration, what is the DNS settings?
Yeah, we had to reconnect to their the new Wi-Fi, and the fact that I get other things and it says the network it says the network connection is good.
Well, that I'm not talking about. It's the phone book, the DNS.
Yeah,
and I use Open DNS, and those have two different numbers that you use, and that works for me much better sometimes than the internet provided DNS settings. Whatever your internet provider is, you use the Open DNS settings.
Well, all that I know is I connected to the Wi-Fi the same way with the laptop, and it worked. And so,
okay.
You two guys are helping each other, but I think you left the rest of us behind.
Well, then now it's the time for the rest of you to speak.
Okay, more Q&A. It's getting kind of late.
It is.
It's been a full 2 hours. That's unusual.
My stomach is rumbling.
My recording of this thing is going to take a week to convert. But I'm not going to need the ones that Stanley and Saul recorded, I think. All right, all. I think I will bid you all aloha and see you next week on a, let me see, where am I? Next week, next week is a regular meeting. The board meeting is not for another 2 weeks, on the 12th. So,
adios.
See you next week. Aloha, adios, vaya con Dios.
Yeah, that too.